Alright, welcome back to New Zero Land. It's the middle of the night, I'm back in the garage, and I'm going to take off my Footpegs. So as you can see, the bike still has no fairings. And I'm starting to realize why there's these old guys working on their cars or something that they've had for 40 years and it's still not finished. It's because there just isn't time to work on stuff. You know, my excuse is that I get home from work, I have maybe 2 hours every night to work on stuff in the garage, and if I modify any part of the bike I have to unmodify it that night so I can ride it the next day, or more like so Jen can ride it the next day. That and a million other excuses, but tonight I'm going to take off the Footpegs, starting with the other side because it's easier. Okay, so now you might be asking, why would I want to move my Footpegs? Well, there's this crazy motorcycle rider on YouTube called Shaft. You may have seen me wear his t-shirt every once in a while. Well, this guy's famous for leaning his bike so far over in turns that he drags his Footpegs and shoots sparks. And as cool as that looks, it's super unsettling when it happens. And also when you raise the Footpegs, it just gives you a more sporty riding position. And that's definitely the point of this zero transformation.
So right after I took this peg out, I realized I still have my passenger pegs on, which doesn't make any sense because I've had a solo seat for months. So let's take that thing off.
The passenger peg bracket is held by 2 bolts on the inside of the frame. And in zero fashion, of course, they're 13 millimeters. But of course there's no room to get the bottom one out. So that's when a ratcheting spanner comes in handy.
What? Yeah, of course I don't have one.
Zero. Why 13 millimeter? Is it a safety thing? Is someone going to steal my passenger pegs?
6.5 hours later.
Okay, here's the idea. So here's where the peg usually sits, somewhere like that. And I think that I want it up over here. So to do that, I figure I'll use this bolt hole to mount a plate that kind of goes up like this. And then I'm using the rear, the passenger peg bolts on the back of the frame to mount the top of it. But the problem is the frame is pretty thick, and so these are at different depths. And so to combine those, I'm going to layer, well, I'll figure something out actually. As you can see, I had to cut out a little notch for the onboard charger port, but that is pretty much what it's going to look like. So I have a piece on the back, a piece on the front, and then a spacer in between to fill this gap where the frame is. So this is kind of where I want to put the foot peg. I mean, moving it from here all the way up to here is a pretty extreme move, so I mean I could always like drill another hole, move it down here, or move it up here if I want to go even crazy like a Ducati or something. So that's kind of the idea, and so I think I'm actually ready to transfer this onto some really thick acrylic. I'm using 6mm thick acrylic. It's super strong, so I can drill holes and mount these actually to the frame, and then mount foot pegs wherever I want them, and actually put some weight on them and see, you know, if it works or not. Safety first. Alright, so here's what the left side looks like. It's all mounted to the frame now. I really wish the final piece could be clear like this, just because it's so cool looking and futuristic. But it's got to be metal just to be strong enough to hold a foot peg and stand on. So this would go basically like that, and then these two pieces need to be joined, the back and the front, just to make it super strong. to brace the top, because if I stand on the bottom, you know, put some weight on it, it could like rotate back a little bit. So the problem is I need to join these. So I already measured the width of the frame, and it's roughly 3 centimeters. And these are 6 millimeters thick, so I'm gonna need 5 of these in between. Yeah. This will work. I just need 4 more.
12 seconds later.
Alright, so if my calculations are correct, 6 millimeters each, 5 of them should be exactly 30 millimeters. Yep. Who said math was a waste of time? So this piece should fit right in there. And with the foot peg mounted, it looks like this. So this kind of just sits like that in there. So obviously the easiest way to move the foot peg or use aftermarket rear sets or something would be use this mounting hole and then drill another hole in the frame up here. But since I don't want to drill holes and I don't want to weld into the frame and stuff like that, this is what I've decided to use. And I think it's going to work. And I'm repurposing the 0 peg so that I can keep this rotating thing, so that when you're backing up, you're not hitting a solid peg like a race peg. Alright, so that felt really good. I just hot glued these together, so I didn't put a whole bunch of pressure on it, but it's actually really strong. Just bolted here and on the back. So I'll figure out a way how to make it cooler looking. But I think this foot peg position is a lot better than stock. So for comparison, this is where the stock peg was, and now it's probably 4 or 5 inches up higher, and a little bit further back, probably 2 inches back. And I can still have this rotation bit, which I really like. Alright, a few days later, it's time to take off the other side. So it looks like there are 4 main bolts that you want to take off. There's the foot peg, there's the brake lever, and then 2 up here for the brake cylinder. Which also holds this like heel guard thing, and then obviously there's the passenger peg. This is a whole other thing, and that's actually holding the rear brake fluid reservoir. So that, yeah, I'll have to make a custom bracket for that since this is going away. But this, basically, I need 4 holes on the new adapter plate thing that moves it. Start by taking off the heel guard. This is just a 4 millimeter Allen wrench. Those 2 bolts held in the brake cylinder, and then looks like there's a ground, probably from the ABS, I'm guessing. Yeah. I'll just take this off first. This passenger peg just shouldn't be on the bike anymore anyway. Alright, same deal, 13 millimeter. It's just even more impossible to get to because there's brake lines and the brake reservoir and just cables and stuff. Try and go from the front, I think. Yeah, from the front works. Actually, if you look from the other side, the brake reservoir is held in by a screw, so I'll take that off first. Okay, now that you can move this out of the way and get to that bolt a lot easier. Well, that's not going back in. Alright, so this is unbolted, passenger peg's removed. All that's left is the brake lever and the peg. And then all that's left is the 7 millimeter Allen, same as the other side, and a 15 millimeter bolt, which is the only 15 millimeter on the bike. So when I took the peg holder off, I actually noticed that the spring that holds the brake lever is actually bolted to another hole. So I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 holes just for these, and then 2 more for the brake cylinder. So this is getting pretty complicated, and I'm starting to understand why people like the left-hand brake lever instead of having it down here. Okay, so you just unhook the little spring thing, move this out of the way, and now you can see what we're working with. So the plan is, put some paper over it, trace where all the holes are, move the paper back up, and then wherever the peg used to be, match that up to the other side where the new peg hole is, like roughly up here.
So if I grab the piece I made for the other side and line it up, here is where the new foot peg is going to be. So I just need to make a plate that incorporates all of these mounting points.
So now that the brake side is looking really cool, I need a cooler design for the other side. Something like this. So the plan is I'm going to 3D scan these, go on the computer and model them, and then hopefully CNC them as one piece.
Hey!
Hey!
I just got a call from the metal shop.
Yeah?
Your parts are ready.